welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a while, but I've got something exciting for you guys today. The gearing. Such a small fish in a large, large ocean. So many predators. So many choices. Let's have a look at some of your predators here. First and foremost, the Kaba. Why is the Kaba such a threat to the gearing? Because the Kaba has 4x2 130s and a long gunnery range and artillery that supports that kind of warfare. Gearing is kind of a gunboat, kind of a fish boat, but it's much more versatile. And we're going to sit down and look at all the stuff that makes her so versatile. She doesn't have very good speed, but she has amazing handling. 3.74 seconds on a turn. That's fast. Kaba does not have that luxury. 3-second reload on 127s. You get 6 guns in an ABX configuration. Pretty average 533 millimeter torpedoes with a 9-kilometer range. Pretty middle of the pack damage and speed. Nothing really too exemplary. Kaba, a little bit longer reload, but you know, she's got the main battery reload booster, but she's creaming you on alpha and range. She's also got significantly better dispersion. But however, look at those torps. Almost 4 kilometers less range. That's big. Their alpha is also not as high. So coupled with these things, we can certainly ascertain that if we wanted to pick a gunfight with a ship like this, we're almost certainly going to lose. But if we wind up getting in close enough to land an accurate torpedo strike, she doesn't stand much of a chance though, does she? Everybody who's seen a Kaba knows that it handles like an absolute truck. Not unlike this destroyer right here, Rugamo. They both have really poor concealment. And this is going to work in your favor in the gearing because you have some of the best concealment. In fact, one of the only things in the game that currently outspots you is the Shima, and that is by an extremely narrow margin. Of course, Shima, she has nasty torpedoes, but she's really kind of lacking in the gun department. So if we pick a gunfight with her, we're surely going to win. And this is another kind of hyper-versatile ship right here, the Z-52. Very well-rounded, but it has a little bit weaker torpedoes, a little bit stronger guns, and it gets sonar. And that's a big, big caveat, not unlike this ship right here, the Yu Yang, which features radar. Now this shape is basically a cookie cutter, copy paste, whatever you like to call it, gearing with worse anti-air suites, but better consumables, and in fact she gets radar. She still retains smoke. The gearing though has a much more well-rounded style of play. These are my choices for my elite ship bonus. As you can see, I went for torpedo damage and alpha. Now, I could have gone gun range. It's an accurate, or, you know, it's an accurate and fair argument. However, your guns get kind of floaty at that range. And here we can see that consumable loadout that I was looking at. Gearing as a destroyer has amongst the best AA when she's kit for it. Here are the 2 camos. Personally, I love the Comet gearing. A little bit of sci-fi camo. Anyway, let's jump on in. The first match we're going to broadcast here is going to feature a nightmare for just about any single destroyer player in this game. And the fact that we are going to charge right into the spawn. And look at that. You're going to notice right there, a Seattle and a Worcester. Those are 2 very good ships that are good at getting into a cap, controlling it, and negating any destroyer chance of controlling that cap, and that can cause real problems for us because they have radar, they have a mean rate of fire, they have a lot of guns, much better range, but we have concealment so long as they're not using radar. Fortunately, you know, we can work around that. CV lands a devastating strike on that Yugamo, but doesn't kill him, and now this is where we got to play a little bit of risk here. We're going to sneak around, grab that Yugamo, and then bait that Worcester and then disappear. We want to force him to burn that radar so that if we decide to flank or keep engaging him, he cannot see us if we're using our stealthy torpedo attacks. And that's a big advantage for the Worcester. You could just see how many shells he is just pouring into that smoke. You don't want to get hit by those. It also stands without saying, guys, that if you're deploying your smoke in the gearing, you kind of want to be moving around inside of it if you're planning to sit there and fire off some rounds. Anyway, we're going to do the old 1-2 skidoo. We're going to get around, and there's that radar. Just as he had lost sight of us as we went around the island. And you're going to start to see that these two ships are going to realize that they're kind of kitty-cornered in the corner of the map, and they're not in such a very good situation. I wait for the radar to cool down, dump off some torps to cut off that Worcester's escape, and there you go. Before I know it, I drop off detection, and I am gone. And that Worcester will have no idea where I am. So we're going to get back to talking about those guns. Remember how I said torpedo damage over range, and this is why right here. Now, I land those torp shots, damn near take out that Worcester, but I'm at almost the very max range of my guns. And you can see the AP here, I'm not getting a whole lot of pens, he's healing. Those shells are very floaty. I mean, I've deployed smoke, and you can see that that Worcester is trying very in vain to land some shells on me here. But again, it goes to saying, if you're moving around in your smoke, he's having a hell of a time trying to land these shots, and you can see a little bit more zoomed out of a view here. HE at range for the gearing is almost better because your AP shells, like I showed you there, are going to have such a high arc that they are going to have almost non-existent penetration by the time that they get there. So that 4% of range, it may look like I might be able to get a little here, but really you don't. It's not a huge advantage in the face of adding a few more alpha to those torpedoes. And as you can see here, as I've worked my way through that back line onto this midway, I'm going to charge him. We're going to get rid of this carrier, but you're going to see pretty quickly that the Worcester that managed to slip away is going to take extreme exception to this and start shelling me pretty heavily. However, it's all going to be for naught. He's quite far away, and our CV is coming in to end his existence right now. And gearing, it has that quintessential style of being where you can help your team the most. It's a very effective team player. And the Donskoy is going to wrap that one up for us, and next we're going to move on to another major topic of the Gearing's playstyle here, and this is area control. And this is almost, I can't stress it enough how important this is. We're going to get in there, and we're going to run into one of the Gearing's natural predators here, and that's the Harugamo. And Harugamo can have an absolute vicious rate of fire. It's another one of those gunboats like Kaba, just without the speed, just slightly better guns. And a Harugamo can absolutely positively melt something if it's given the opportunity to sit there and dump shells on shells on shells on it. If it's forced to move, if it's forced to open water, Harugamo falls much shorter than the Gearing. And you're going to see why, and I'm going to show this to you here, how big these stealthy little torpedo attacks are. And I do get by with a little help from my CV here, but you can see that this Harugamo is way overshot his smoke. He's out in the open for the CV. CV's basically just having a ball of a time, just landing some strikes on him. And we wind up landing a fortuitous torp on the Izumo. And we're going to spark a flood, force his damage con, and this is beautiful. Now the CV is going to get in there and land a strike on that Izumo. And again, the Gearing's motto is kind of like the Mercenary. She goes where the action is, and she absolutely is a team player. She gets by with a little help from her friends. So now the Izumo and the Harugamo in this situation are unsure of how to proceed. They don't know where I am, and they don't know how I'm going to engage them, but they both know that I'm spotting them. CV lands another strike on that Izumo and gets a permaflood. I'm going to dump out some torps on that Harugamo because he is pushing him blind. He has no way to know where I am. one of the greatest weaknesses of the Harugumo is in fact torpedoes. She turns like a truck, just like the Kaba. She eats a couple there, and there we go. She goes down, and I am left to an absolute mismatch on this side with this Izumo. And that Kaba popped over just in the nick of time, it seems, grabbed a couple of quick, easy kills, and then we've cleared that flank, and I'm moving on down. All because of that little gearing just running circles in front of them, undetected. It's a nightmare to try and deal with if you're playing it. If you're playing it correctly, gearing can absolutely get in there and cause some havoc. So we're going to push up, and we're moving down that flank. We're going to come up alongside an allied Des Moines. And you're going to see that we're going to push into another American light cruiser and a Fletcher. And the power of having this gearing like it is, kit for concealment, we're not detected. Nobody knows where we are, and that's a 3/4 health Seattle and a 1/3 health Fletcher going up against a single Des Moines. That Des Moines, he opens up on. He gets a little help from the CV, and then a little help from the gearing. And that Seattle, who normally would eat me alive in 2 salvos, cannot take his guns off of the Des Moines because he has to gun him down. Because the Des Moines has just a fierce rate of fire as I do. He has to. He's locked into it. And at that point, focus solely on the Fletcher, who now has a fraction of its health and is pushing in blindly to a gearing with all my guns right at this broadside. I fail to see better situations when you're in a gearing. Here we are. We're going to mop him up, and we're going to move on. And we're going to keep on pushing. Now, all of this possible, again, to good concealment, smart team play, and knowing, thinking ahead. That's the basics. Now we're going to jump into some offensive play. And like I said, the gearing does it all. She is not a queen in any one category, but instead lies in the top few of every category. And that in itself is an extreme strength. And in this battle here, I'm going to wind up pushing all the way down this flank, almost undeterred. And this is how offensive the gearing can get. Now you're going to see, I'm going to pop right up on that back line here. We see some Fletchers, we see some Neptunes, we see some gearings. And out of nowhere, we're going to spot the CV. Now, we have to deal with all of these ships. None of these ships know that we're here until, ta-da, right now, that magical yellow detected sign pops up. And now we're engaging a Fletcher and a Neptune. We throw those torps out, kind of force that Neptune to disengage so that I can deal with the Fletcher and force a mismatch. The Neptune will kick my ass if I let him. And I can't. It's not a smart idea to try and engage multiple ships at the same time. You will wind up missing something. You will wind up making, a simple mistake. And I know I'm not infallible, but when you're tracking multiple targets, that's when things start to get hairy. Now, in this match here, and I know that this is even a Pramo video here, but we're talking about 3 ships, and I lost count of them. I'm engaging 2 of them here with the Fletcher and the Neptune, as the Neptune fires a blind salvo and an undetected destroyer. Now you can see that I have clearly got their attention, despite the fact that they do not know where I am. That is the kind of consistent advantage that the gearing can bring to the table. Midway, sitting nice and pretty in spawn, beautiful target. We dump the torps, blow smoke, and engage. The Neptune is expecting it. He's protecting the midway. What happens? The Neptune eats the torps because she doesn't want to disengage. And this is a costly mistake. Enemy torpedo down she goes. Speed boost and we're out of there. We're going to get out of the way of that torpedo so we don't take any more damage than we have to. And now we're almost free to start gunning the midway. But wait, see that Fletcher? He popped up around. Hit the enemy. And he comes around and he tries to mop me up, but we're both popping in and out of concealment because of the smoke right there. it's kind of a hairy situation. But by now, I've got that CV's attention. I am laying it into this Fletcher, and unfortunately, the true enemy to any class of warship is the CV. And my health is going to bleed fast. And this is one of the reasons that that class of ship is entirely broken in this game. There are several instances of CVs trying to strike American destroyers during World War II and taking hours for them to finally land a fatal strike. And the reason is because these little guys are just so damn fucking rascally. They have great handling, makes it an absolute nightmare to try and land any kind of a strike. But here, when you've got click button RNG, glitches and bugs, anything is possible. So we blew our smoke, told the CV to go F off, try and regen some of this health. Here he is for more, because that's what CVs do. He has got me firmly in his sights. Fletcher flanks around the rock again. Man, this cat loves to spin around. And we're going to continue gunning him down, and there you go. See, this is how effective that smoke game is. Now that I don't have a smoke, I have no sonar. That CV lands a nasty bomb strike on me. And before long, my health is gone. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Like and subscribe, and have a good one.